Took you by surprise, didn't I? At Ebony, pies sailed through the air, found their mark on startled faces. The laughter started small, but began to roll over the whole nation. Did you see the latest Ebony comedy? If you like to laugh, go see it. That's what folks told each other. There was never anything like Ebony, the first black film company.
You gotta come back, come on. Paul, hey, Paul.
Ebony, the first motion picture company specializing in all-black comedies, began its operations in 1916. Located on California Avenue in Chicago, the Ebony Studios are still standing in rickety splendor, a reminder of the hilarious times gone by.
Say that again. He does what?
He throws the custard pie at you.
At me?
Yeah, at you. You duck and it hits Tatum. Then you slam your pie at Sam and they chase you.
And the man who knows more about the Ebony Film Corporation than anyone is Luther Pollard, the founder.
Well, I was born in Mexico, Missouri, January 4, 1878.
By 1908, Pollard was a successful advertising copywriter in Chicago. His ads helped create a huge market for home motion pictures. In 1916, he began his own film company. The Ebony comedians were friends of friends, performers, but mostly they came to the studios because they'd seen Pollard's ads and wanted an opportunity to act in films.
I had watched comedies, and I saw that pantomime was the thing that made comedies entertaining, and I could see no reason why they could not excel as screen comedians. And I finally decided to produce pictures with American Negro actors. We were the first company that specialized in that.
A parade of black actors and actresses joined Ebony. Bill Starks, Rudolph Tatum, Sam Jacks, Sam Robinson, George Lewis, Bert Murphy, Yvonne Jr., and a bevy of Ebony beauties, all intent on making audiences split their sides laughing.
All of them were from Chicago.
Ebony. The old ads proclaimed the all-black comedies the funniest on earth.
Gentlemen, the Ebony comedy we are playing pleases us. Continue to send one of them each Sunday.
Ebony. Who thought up the name?
I said to my wife, can you think of a name meaning black that it doesn't say black? So she said, why not call your organization Ebony?
But it remained for someone else to preserve a few of the Ebony films, Charles David. 10 years younger than Pollard, he was employed by Ebony in the technical end of the business.
I started in the motion pictures at a very early age, and I've done everything under the sun in the motion picture business. Lab expert, cameraman, director, scenic artist, scriptwriter, and what have you. I've done it. And now, they've talked me into being an actor. And it's so much better being on the other side of the camera, you can't imagine.
For almost 60 years, David saved the ebony reels, but all the early films were on nitrate. One by one, they disintegrated. 5 reels were transferred to safety film, and there are a number of clear passages left, like this one from the comeback of Barnacle Bill. It's a hayseed drama, the country boy in love with the country girl. Her stern father, also big in the stern, played by Sam Jacks. The humor was universal. In Ebony's Spies a la mode, Sam Robinson believes there's a spy under every bed. This film was produced during the last days of World War I, when suspicion was high and a little slapstick helped ease the tension. Detective Sam Robinson combs the headlines for clues. His dreams of glory materialize.
When I was quite young, but I was pretty well around in the motion picture business, and I run across a black man named Luther Pollard. And he impressed me right away as somebody that knew what he wanted.
Well, I first met Charles David. I think that was, possibly 1912.
We got together almost immediately. I liked him, he liked me. He was a very clever man and knew what he was talking about. And he wanted to make motion pictures of completely black characters for black and white theaters. It wasn't made for propaganda or any other purpose, but made completely for comedy. I went to work for him, and it was one of the happy days of my life because we made pictures that were outstanding.
In the early years of filmmaking, Chicago was an international film center. Ebony was achieving distinction with its all-black comedies. Of the white studios, S&A on the north side was the most famous. Some of the most prominent of the early stars worked here. Francis X. Bushman, Wallace Beery, Ben Turpin, Rod LaRock, Gloria Swanson, Louis Stone, H.B. Walthall, Beverly Bain, Charlie Chaplin, Max Linder, and the S&A mascot. The studio was founded by George K. Spoor and G.M. Anderson, who was known as Bronco Billy, the first screen cowboy hero. And north of S&A was the American Film Manufacturing Company. The famous Flying A, started in 1910 by Burt Hamilton, former S&A studio manager. The earliest of the Chicago studios was run by William Selig, the Selig Polyscope Company. It was operating as early as 1904, turning out melodrama after melodrama, many of which starred Kathleen Williams. But where was a black man or woman going to receive employment in motion pictures? At Ebony.
Pictures were produced in a studio at 2332 North California Avenue. Some of the best ones were made in that studio.
At Ebony, there was a rich outpouring of wildly funny slapstick comedies. Some filmed out in the snow in front of the studios. Sam Robinson, a spy detective working on his own for his country, goes looking for German spies. The name on the box is Schwartz, probably a German spy. Schwartz again. Wrong again. Sam, the eternal optimist, is undaunted by bad luck and near misses. Pollitt felt blacks should add their own view of the landscape of humor to the film industry. He was convinced it was special. Over at the Ebony Studios, the black comedians were having the time of their lives. In a field dominated by white studios, Ebony was a major miracle. A thriving company of black actors and actresses working for the laughter of the human race. And good paychecks, too. Not bad. Luther Pollard, the founder of Ebony, was born 2 years after the United States celebrated its centennial. As a boy, he saw no motion pictures. The camera that could take them wasn't even invented.
My father was the owner of a 10-chair barber shop in the Ringo House in Mexico, Missouri, where I was born. He practically gave the business away and came to Chicago hoping to get in the vicinity of Evanston because of Northwestern. And he was looking for a place to settle and open up a barber shop. So he came to Rogers Park. I think that was about 1885 or 84. I was a kid about 6 or 7 years old. I first went to the district school in Rose Hill. They call it Edgewater now. It was a one-room affair, a big stove up in the middle. And all classes were in that one room. Quite a number of the kids couldn't speak English. They're German descent. I remember the teacher's name was McGuire, Miss McGuire.
Charles David, who was one of Pollock's cameramen, recalls his own childhood. He worked as a very young man at the SNA studios with kids from a slum neighborhood called Little Hell. They were employed in 1908 in the SNA laboratory.
I grew up in an ordinary neighborhood of mixed nationalities, a little of everything. But the kids that worked in the technical crew up at SNA, they were, I came out of Little Hell, and boy, they were really little devils. But they were good at heart and good little mechanics.
In Chicago, black children had no chance to learn any of the technical trades associated with filmmaking.
Colored children didn't have opportunities.
And little, if any, chance was given to black actors and actresses. Black roles were usually played by white people. Even in a Civil War melodrama, the black servant was white, underneath the cork makeup.
Oh, they had no opportunities.
Occasionally, a black maid was played by a black actress. Or you might see genuine blacks as almost part of the scenery.
For years, black parts were portrayed by white actors, and the white actors seemed to get a pleasure out of putting burnt cork on their face and doing the thing. Along came Luther Pollard with the idea that black...
Pollard was the first, but one white film pioneer who overlooked prevailing fixed notions about who should and should not appear in films was the German immigrant Sigmund Lubin. He ran the Lubin Studios in Philadelphia. His trademark was the Liberty Bell. Lubin not only employed black actors and actresses, he featured them in some of his slapstick comedies. Mattie Edwards was one of his stars, often portraying a rambunctious cyclone in the kitchen. The team of John and Mattie Edwards appeared in many one-reel Lubin comedies. The Lubin all-black comedies were no more far-fetched and outrageous than most of the comedies of the day. But every time a filmmaker resorted to ridiculing a race, nationality, or an economic stratum of society, he kept the pots of prejudice boiling. In addition to John and Mattie Edwards, Lubin introduced other silent comedians. Oliver Hardy was known as Babe Hardy when he appeared in Lubin comedies. If you got tired of slapstick, any one of the early studios could provide you with an Indian love story. This is Lubin's Legend of Lover's Leap.
I can't recall of those pictures. I never liked Lubin's production either. But it seemed as though that they weren't properly handled.
Back in the olden days, material for pictures were kind of hard to come by, so we naturally turned to the Swedes and the Irish and the Jews. And
over at SNA, Wallace Beery played a Swedish maid as a dim-witted loony. The studio made a fortune from these comedies. Sweetie the Swatter, Topsy-Turvy Sweetie, Sweetie and the Double Exposure, Sweetie Skate, Countess Sweetie, Sweetie Learns to Ride, Sweetie Learns to Swim, Sweetie in Vaudeville, Sweetie and Her Dog, Sweetie's Hopeless Love, Sweetie's Hero, Sweetie Goes to College, Sweetie's Finish, Sweetie and the Sultan's Present, Sweetie at the Fair, Sweetie and the Hypnotist, Sweetie Collects for Charity, Sweetie the Troublemaker. In films, the black man or woman was stereotyped too. Naive, happy-go-lucky, dangerously fond of chicken. At SNA in Chicago, few blacks were ever employed. But the tradition of mixed animated characters was well established. Model animators Howard Moss and Charles Bennis built and animated little dolls. A white boy called Funny Face, and a black child, Mose. They were good friends and comrades in many adventures. Each doll had scores of faces. Funny Face and Mose could speak all of their silent lines. The only integration at SNA occurred among the film puppets. Funny Face and Moe's, Friends and Fun, years before the Our Gang comedies. But Ebony had the last laugh when it borrowed from SNA's 1916 production of Sherlock Holmes. Ebony's version was called The Black Sherlock Holmes. William Gillette, the famous actor, played Holmes for SNA with a liberal amount of stagey ham.
The murderer cowering in the corner over there. What a dastardly crime, Moriarty!
Sam Robinson as Holmes wore his fore and aft cap at a rakish angle as he lurched after criminals.
I believe
Gillette's portrayal was haughty.
Elementary.
Sam Robinson played Holmes for laughs. It was Pollard who brought real black film players together. He had to dream Ebony up, promote it, get backers for it. Once the pictures were produced, he had to overcome exhibitor prejudice.
There was just a feeling that they wouldn't be acceptable. We ran into that. Exhibitors would turn them down. Then they would book them. And they booked one or two of them, and there's nothing like them. Fellow in charge, the general film at New Orleans. And he said, at first, these pictures didn't go in New Orleans, but now they do. The kids go wild about them, and the women do. That's all. It's a question of good stuff.
The result was Ebony, gloriously nutty, a little world the larger world of film-goers began to love. Ebony, the first black film company.